PlayerProfiler Nation, welcome to the latest episode of Trade Gods. It's crossover week, boys and girls, but I am not joined with my fellow Trade God brother, Nay. I'm joined by El Capitan of the Underworld, Mr. Matt Kelley. What's going on, Matt?
Crossover week is here. We are crossing over. We're crossing streams, man. We're crossing streams.
Hey, I love it. I mean, listen, when you said you wanted to come on TG, very excited to have you on.
TG.
Had to go to the Discord. You know, we're cool here, Matt. We got the backwards caps on. I got the DJ Moore Carolina Panthers now throwback jersey, apparently.
Oh,
but we got a whole bunch of trades to break down, man.
Well, not apparently. It's now a throwback. He was traded. You know?
He was traded, but listen,
which is a good thing.
It's a good thing for we like it, right? We think it's
it was kind of like, oh wait, I was gonna get Bryce Young a pocket passer, a prolific pocket passer in college, and now I have a mobile quarterback who's gonna run a lot. Damn it.
Yeah, I mean, well, the Bryce Young, it's like two ships crossing in the night. You want that quarterback for DJ Moore. He's in town, he's out of town, but it's okay. Still looking like it's going to be a dynamic duo in Chicago. The Clips already look great. I love it.
And Chase Claypool already starting off the year on the pop. I mean, he's over.
Chase Claypool
is so done. Done. He's as done as Jameson Williams. All these guys that are, on and in and out of the pop all the time, and they're not reliable because that the coaches, they say that the number one skill that a player can have is availability. Yeah. Availability. Hey, don't be mad at me. Don't be mad at me. If it were me, I would be coddling Jameson Williams. Okay, I would be protecting him from Amon-Ra St. Brown's withering stare,
his psychoticness.
Okay. Yeah, I would be protecting him at all costs. I would be, spoon feeding him the playbook. We would have like tutors all around him, helping him, elevating him at all times, even if he can't be in practice, even if he has to. Can't be in the film room with us. I would make sure that he gets the laptop and we're with him watching the plays from practice or whatever it is. But that's not their attitude, man. I wish it was their attitude, but that's not their attitude. If you're not there, you're behind.
Did you see the clip of Amon-Ra just barehanding one-handed catches off the jugs machine? If you turn that camera around, Dan Campbell's holding Jameson Williams' arms back, making him watch it. That's the type of ship Dan Campbell runs.
Yes.
He wants toughness.
You see this? You see this? You see this? I'm doing this because I love you. I'm doing this because I love you.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
This means so much to me. You mean so much to me. We have to do this together. We have to watch him.
Man, no.
We have to watch excellence together because I love you, man.
Oh, that's what he wants. He wants people that bite kneecaps, not make bets and miss football games. Yeah. We don't.
He doesn't want that, man. That's not what he's here for.
No,
that's not what he's here for.
Not.
So, well, I mean, it's just one of those things. I have been wired to love players like Chase Claypool. Like 6'4", 230.
Yeah.
A Calvin Johnson athletic profile.
Creative players from Madden.
Oh, my God. They're like you built a player in Madden. And unfortunately, the NFL doesn't agree with me. NFL coaches have no time for these guys.
Nope.
And they will not hold their hand. They will not coddle them. And you either basically enter the league ready to eat faces or you get traded, right? It's that simple.
Yes.
And if you have early second round capital like DeAndre Swift, it doesn't matter. Even if you have first round capital like Kadarius Toney, the Giants are like, this guy's never going to be available when we need him. So why are we even bothering?
See you later. And Dan Campbell, Brian Daboll, they're these rah-rah guys. You need rah-rah guys. That's what they're doing. They don't like these big Madden creative players. They want these pro-ready, good program kids, that are ready to rock and roll. That's what they want.
Right.
So
and so, I mean, this one, I've been on this thread of discussion and conversation and thought lately. Is just how far I've come. I've been doing a lot of reflecting because it's close to 10 years in now doing this.
Whew.
And I'm like, yeah, I used to love Brashad Perriman. right? He used to be my guy. One of my viral videos very early wasn't even on YouTube. It was just like it was from the podcast that it was cut to a slideshow. It was just
Right.
images with audio. And it was me talking about Brashad Perriman and how explosive he is and how excited I am to see him catch passes in the NFL and dominate without any idea about what actually goes on and the limitations of the most athletic. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand how a Brashad Perriman after his pro day could possibly fail. And
Yeah, right.
later, I'm looking up and I'm going, hey guys, so you just need to get whatever you can get for Kadarius Toney. And that was 6 months ago. And now you're seeing why. You need to get whatever you can get for Chase Claypool. You need to get whatever you can get for Jameson Williams. You got to get whatever you can get for Quentin Johnston. I'm telling you now, right? I'm already getting out ahead of it, right? There's some guys where it's a bit clear. You just need to sometimes you sunk cost. Just get
out. Right.
That's what this show is all about. Like, how can we package a bunch of guys that are headed to zero and maybe get something back that would help my fantasy team in the long term?
Well, listen to this, Matt. You're in luck because when the M&M boys get together, obviously QJ is coming up, and there will be a trade that involves Q Johnson tonight. So let's get into these trades. We put out the bat signal to the Discord. Shout out to everyone in the Discord, Player Profile Discord, playerprofile.com/chat. Get in the Discord, and you can have your trades broken down by the Podfather himself on TG Crossover Week. So let's get into it. Trade number 1 comes from a 16-team PPR 1 QB start 9. It's from Best Alex EU in the Discord. Shout out to you. He is selling Jamar Chase.
Whoa.
He's 101 right now, selling him for Chris Olave, Christian Watson, the 314, the 304, a 2024 first, and a 2024 second. Now, before I get your thoughts on this trade, Matt, let me give you a little bit additional context here. The 304 is Tucker Kraft. The 314 is Charlie Football, Charles Jones. And the 24 first is a third-party teammate. It's not one of these guys involved in this trade pick. So we don't know where it's going to land. So selling a guy like Jamar Chase, potentially one of the most valuable assets in all of Dynasty, did he get enough here?
No. God damn, I hate saying that.
It's crazy, right?
I hate saying that. And there's a trade coming up later that also is heavily skewed to, the quality side of the ledger where it's a premium blue chip foundational piece and a bunch of really good players on the other side. And it's like, I want the premium blue chip piece. And I understand the risk versus reward equation here. Is that if you're just playing risk versus reward, this is the right move, which is to divest of Chase and spread the risk around. Right? This is absolutely a risk management move. So now Olave and Watson have to bust. Right? But he just didn't get enough back. He just didn't give enough back. Like, I thought this was interesting and compelling without the 2025 first. Right? I thought it was interesting without the when the 2025 first comes along and this guy's getting Jamar Chase, right? The other side is getting Jamar Chase and this guy's 2025 first. It's one thing to give up Jamar Chase. It's another thing to also not have your first rounder in 2025.
Right. That's a good point.
This isn't even, if it was a pure win now deal, then we could have that conversation. But Olave and Watson are win now players, just like Jamar Chase is. It's not like these guys, these are not rebuilding assets. It's definitely a way to get the average age of your wide receiver core to get younger. Great. Those third rounders don't move the needle. How many teams in this league? It's 16 teams, it looks like.
Yeah. 16
So
teams, but it's pretty light starting lineups. Start 9, it's not super deep starting lineups, but you assume that the rosters themselves are deep because of the 16 teams.
So this is how this trade is excusable and interesting. If this were 12 teams, I would not do it. It would be Jamar Chase. But in a 16-team league, Olave and Watson become that much more valuable.
Right.
Because they're all premium players at the running back and the wide receiver positions in particular, because it's one quarterback. You could even argue tight end in 16-team leagues. Tight ends become a lot more valuable too. Think about who the tight end 16 is. It's pretty bleak.
It's
right?
bad. Yes, we are in the dumps.
It's pretty bleak, dude. So that's where, if he absolutely lacked depth behind Chase, then it's defensible, and I think it's a down the middle deal, a 50-50 coin flip. But that's predicated on, it has to be a 16-team league, and you have to have a barren depth chart behind Jamar Chase for this deal to make sense. 90% of the time when I watch this show, what we're going to talk about today with these different trades that we're assessing, I want the quality side, because I'm betting on myself that I can go out and acquire players on the waiver wire and acquire players in the draft at a higher hit rate than my competitors. So if you believe that that's true, then you're going to be more often than not taking the quality side of the ledger and giving up quantity. And that's what I end up doing. And so that's why this is just so difficult to stomach. Just put it in context of our lifetime value ratings. Jamar Chase is pushing like a 400 lifetime value rating.
Right.
Olave's around 200. So right there, we see that Jamar Chase is at least double the value, right? But then we also give you a bonus if you're creating roster space. You get roster space bonus, because roster space, it needs to be accounted for at some point on the ledger as a player. So 2 Olaves with our math, our trade analyzer math, wouldn't even get you Jamar Chase. Right. So what are you doing? You're exchanging first rounders. That's not good enough, right? You're getting third rounders. That's not helping. Watson is not Olave. Watson's much riskier, right? So Watson, I'm going down the board. His lifetime value rating is down under 150. So now all of a sudden we're doing like 2025 versus 2024 first round math. And it's just so even that if you're the one giving up Chase, you have to demand an overpay. And this is just too even.
Your reaction to initially, it was exactly what I was feeling when I first saw this trade. Value-wise, on that left side, you see a ton of it. But giving up Jamar Chase seems like too much. For me personally, the way I like to do fantasy and the way I like to dynasty is let me keep Chase and let me try to add to Chase. So they just got 2 top 20, 2 top 18 to be exact, wide receivers in dynasty, but they had to give up the number 1 in our dynasty ranks. I would have rather kept number 1 and then traded for a Christian Kirk, Amari Cooper, someone that's just outside, maybe around top 24, top 30, and partner up somebody with Chase, because I want to get Chase. Jason, on the show, fellow trade god, he has this rule, because we get a lot of these Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson trades. He has this rule about trading either. The only guy he said he's trading Jamar Chase for is Justin Jefferson plus. The only guy he's trading Jefferson for is Jamar Chase plus. So to your point, he wants a complete overpay is basically his analysis when it comes to trading away.
Right.
One of these
I think this
is
a better conversation and more interesting if we pull the 2025 first.
It's right. Because then you're getting that additional asset. Now you're just kicking the
now the math tilts, right? And in a trade analyzer, I think the math would tilt toward the Olave side if you pulled the 2025 first, understandably, because then it's a massive overpay. And that 2024 first is also not coming from the stud team, right? It's coming from some third party team that could be top 3, could be Marvin Harrison Jr. So if I tell you that 2024 first is Marvin Harrison Jr., then that's a trade I want. I'll give up Chase for that. So then we're in a world where, especially in a 16-team league, I'm doing it. Like if we get in the conversation, we get in negotiations, I'm doing it.
Right. You got, and it's funny. We must have been doing a lot of shows together recently, Matt, because literally my follow-up, my final question for this trade was going to be, where would that 24 first have to fall for you to get a little bit more enticed for that overpay? And you just answered it there. It's got to be Marvin Harrison, because Marvin Harrison does make this an absolute slam dunk. So, best Alex.
But that's the thing about this trade, though.
Yeah,
What's interesting about it is Marvin Harrison is in play.
He is in play for sure. So
right,
it does
Marvin
make
Harrison is in play with that 2024 first. It makes it a little more interesting, but then you're giving up another first rounder the very next year, and it's like, oh God, man, come on, it's like they went through like an even Steven exercise instead of what's it gonna take.
You're right. This
right?
was you don't both come out here 50-50.
Let's balance this out. The game is what's it gonna take when Chase is involved.
Yeah, they probably. I mean, they could have used the trade analyzer at PlayerProfiler.com and just said, "Hey, we're not clicking accept until we're both right around an X amount of point differential, something like that." Because you're right, it's just too even to trade away a guy like Chase. So we like the return, Alex, but it's just we feel like you could do a lot more, and just with you could put together a way better winning roster.
And you're going to regret it too, right? You're going to regret it. Chase has the wide receiver 1 season. And
2,000 yards.
Olave pops an Achilles because he's been dealing with some arthritis in that Achilles already.
Yeah.
Right. Some tendonitis at the very least. If not, he's a little young for arthritis, but tendonitis. Okay.
Tendonitis pops up. Yep.
So now you're apoplectic. You're considering leaving the league.
you
right?
Might go
You're so remember that league that Cody Carpentier left?
Remember, every time we do a show together, you bring up that.
Remember, he traded me the pick that became Bijan, then he left the league.
Yeah.
Because that's what would happen. You would be like, I can't believe I did that. Yada yada yada. I'm actually still, and we'll get to. You know what? Well, let's go to break, and then we'll talk about a particular trade that has echoes of a trade we're about to analyze.
Okay, perfect. Let's do it.
Hey, we're all starting new fantasy leagues all the time. And more often than not, where do we start our fantasy leagues at Player Profiler? On Sleeper. Because it's the best. You can imagine my excitement when I saw Sleeper rolled out. Sleeper picks, baby. Now, you know I love Kenny Pickett, right? Week 1, who does he face? San Francisco. That's a bummer. So I'm going to be going less than on Kenny Pickett's projected yardage. And on whichever quarterback is starting for San Francisco in Week 1. Probably not Trey Lance. But then, who do the Steelers face in Week 2? The Browns, right? We think the Browns are going to crank things up. So there, you can say, hey, Kenny Pickett, more than his projected passing yards. And you keep on correlating. Elijah Moore, more than. George Pickens, more than. And if you pick up to 8, that's how you 100x your payout on Sleeper. It's called the Hail Mary. So if you use promo code Underworld, you get a $100 instant deposit match. Check out Sleeper's terms and conditions for details. These Sleeper picks are live in over 25 states. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. Head over to Sleeper for those picks now and use the promo code Underworld today.
Yeah,
Trade
buddy.
number 2, baby. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
12-team PPR Superflex 1.5 tight end premium, even though there's no tight ends here. It is a 4-point passing touchdown, which does make a difference here. Start 10. It comes from FPL Hardman in the Discord. To trade away Justin Herbert in a 25-second, he got Daniel Dimes, Devontae Smith, Jahmyr Gibbs in a 2024 4th-round pick. Trading away the richest quarterback in the history of the sport, Matt. Did he get enough?
What do you think?
I say no.
No. He didn't. I can't believe he didn't, but he didn't. He didn't.
No, he didn't.
We're just a year removed from questions swirling around whether Daniel Jones is a starter in the NFL.
Correct.
And so to put yourself in that position in a Superflex Dynasty League, it's a giant step down. It's a titanic step down. And 2 years ago, if you put this in our trade analyzer, because we have the trade analyzer on the Dynasty Dominator app as well as on the Dynasty Deluxe package on the website, it would have given you back Daniel Jones. You should do that trade, right? Daniel Jones, Gibbs, Smith would have the advantage. Over the years, we've just been refining it and it kept recalibrating, perfecting it. And now it's almost impossible to game that system. I mean, how many times have you put a trade in the trade analyzer and you're like, yep, that's right. And I bet you put trades in there that you thought for sure were going to trick it and it didn't get tricked.
All the time. That thing is the trade analyzer is nails, Matt.
It's so fucking nails. It's really nails. So can I just cut to the chase on this trade?
Please.
The trade analyzer has Justin Herbert at 628.95 and the Daniel Jones side at 572.37. And that's about right. It's got a 50-point advantage on the Herbert side.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that the 4th round pick that was thrown in there just to be hilarious. I always do that, by the way. It's something I always do.
Just give me it.
I'm like, just make sure I don't lose picks in net.
Right.
And so I end up with a bunch of 4th rounders every year because I'm shedding 3rds and 2nds to make deals happen. But I'm always like, but I must be balanced. I cannot be net negative on a pick swap. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm always getting like that conditional 7th rounder like NFL GMs do. And so I'm like, that's so superfluous and hilarious, but it's so me to do that too. Right.
Yeah.
I would totally do that.
So it touches your heart a little bit.
Right. I would totally do that. But the fact that this guy, again, take the 2nd out of here. Why are you giving up a 2nd? This superfluous 2nd round pick, that 2nd round pick is going to be useful in a couple of years. It's going to be useful tomorrow in trade. Why would you give it up?
Right.
You're giving up Herbert. What are you doing? You can't give up more stuff. It's like you're giving up Chase. What do you mean we're giving up another 1st rounder and Chase?
Right.
Like, it's like, wait a second. What are we talking about? The question is, so if you pulled that 2nd rounder, Herbert would, because it's 2025 and in our trade analyzer, it discounts these picks heavily as you go out years. So even if you pull that, you're still not going to get it even. Right. You'd have to pull the 2nd rounder, and you'd have to upgrade Smith to something even better, something like Waddle or his
teammate AJ Brown.
Yeah, you'd have to get up to AJ Brown, something like that. That would be the way to do it. You have to jump a tier, get rid of the 2nd, and then we can have a conversation. Again, it's one of these things where it feels like a total overpay, but it's just what happens. It's how do you pry top 6 franchise quarterbacks that are young, that are going to be the cornerstone of a franchise in a super flex league for the next 10 years. You got to pry them out of your fellow managers' cold, dead hands.
Yeah, you do. And this is the type of trade I'm making too. This is what I want to do.
6, 7 quarterbacks, have all of the capital. Like, it's so funny when you go, I just find it hilarious when you go to our super flex rankings, you'll get the lifetime values. And it's just all quarterbacks down the board. And then, but it's quarterbacks by a huge margin, right? It's like Herbert is 100 points more like 150 points more valuable than even Jamar Chase in Superflex. And it's like, is that so nuts? That's crazy. No. It's what it takes, man.
Yeah.
Superflex, you are starting pretty much all of your good quarterbacks. Okay. You can't go to the waiver wire. They don't exist. Minshew in Superflex. Here, quarterbacks like Minshew, Heineke, Brissett.
Yep.
They're all rostered, bruh. Like, who else is rostered in all my Superflex leagues? Cooper Rush. Because Cooper Rush is on a team that's up-tempo with weapons, and when he played last year, he played well. He was productive.
Serviceable.
So that's absolutely a quarterback that you need to be rostering. Every quarterback that's shown that when they get the opportunity, they can be productive, especially in a faster paced, pass first, weapons laden offense. You need to go and just get those guys. Like, Cooper Rush doesn't sound like anyone that's worth rostering in Superflex. Oh, you better believe it.
Yeah. Because then you're paying all of your fab if that goes down. And even sometimes we see the unproven quarterbacks be rostered in your deeper dynasty Superflex leagues, like Clayton Tune. Clayton Tune is on rosters right now because we're speculating that he may see some starting reps while Kyler's on the shelf. So
I think a better bet is Aiden O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell's another one that is rostered in all Superflex.
Longer term upside. Jimmy has awful pocket awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's why I'm worried about Tua Tagovailoa. I'm not worried about Tua as much about the concussion. Remember, Brandon Cooks had a concussion problem years ago, and he just didn't
He
get
did,
another
right, when he
concussion.
was in New England. Yep.
So it's just, it's the sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem with Brandon Cooks that he doesn't have to deal with as much because he doesn't have nearly as many reps is that he lacks spatial awareness. You remember the tackle that did him in the Super Bowl?
Oh my God, it was awful. Yeah.
It was
Bounced his head
like,
off the ground because he just did not see the guy coming.
no, but I know, but when you were watching that, you were like, what are you doing? It
Yeah.
was like me
I
out
remember that,
there. Honestly, it looked like my nephew playing football for the first time. He was like, I was like, dude, have you never played football before? Like, you can't be, that's not a move. It's so interesting when you see a play, and sometimes it's like a quarterback or a special teamer, something gets thrust into a situation where they just look awkward.
Right. Like they're not ready.
These players, they're so dialed into the spatial dimensions of and what players are capable of and the vectors they come in from. They rarely get taken by surprise fully. On that hit, it was like you dropped a civilian into like a war zone.
Yeah. It
And
did have that feeling, right?
he got so lit up and his head hit the ground so hard. That's why if you put civilians on a football field, that they would die. People don't understand. It's like,
Right.
but this guy, he's 200 pounds or something. It's like, you don't understand. It's the way you move your body. It's the way you become aware of your surroundings. You can be in grave danger by just walking across a football field. You've seen these guys, right? The guys, the fans, the streakers, and how lit up they get just by security
Every
guards.
time, yeah.
Those are security guards. Dude, these are guys that are overweight.
Yeah, these are guys who played D3 football 10 years ago.
Yeah, and they're and they're concussing. They're putting guys in the hospital, right? That are running around naked with paint on their chest. That's not like Aaron Donald, dude. So
can you imagine if Aaron Donald was able to just get the blind side of one of these streakers? He would knock all of the paint off their chest.
It would be crazy. It would be crazy.
Oh
right?
my God.
So that's part of the issue with Tua, and that's part of the issue with Jimmy, is that they are down in the lower percentiles of pocket awareness in general, and they take these awkward hits a lot. Right. And so that's part of my fear and why Aiden O'Connell, I think we could look up and, he's starting a bunch of games and maybe somehow they find a way to win too many games for them to actually be in the running for a Caleb Williams next year. Next thing you know, you're looking up and you have a year and a half really of Aiden O'Connell, and he basically gets a run that you've seen, I guess fairly real. What would it be? The Texans,
the Davis Mills.
I think a Davis Mills type run. That's what you're looking for with an Aiden O'Connell.
Well,
and even Davis Mills is an interesting stash, right? Davis Mills flashed as a bet. So there's at least 10 quarterbacks that must be rostered because they're young and they've flashed, or they're behind some like a Mike White. He's behind a quarterback that has
bad spatial awareness
signs,
the spatial awareness of a streaker.
Yeah, so there's
doing the streaker Tagovailoa.
It's tough, right? It's just it's tough. It's one of those players where you definitely want Aiden O'Connell. I would prefer Aiden O'Connell because what's the long-term upside for Clayton Tune? That he's behind Kyler Murray. That's unless the only way Kyler leaves is if they get Caleb Williams.
Right, and they have to finagle that. There's a whole bunch of dead cap that'll be involved with that. But we say all this to say that the importance of quarterback is so monumental, so paramount in these superflex leagues that trading away a guy like Justin Herbert, you need to come away with a quarterback that you can squint in your eyes and see him potentially being a QB1. I don't see that out of Daniel Jones. I think we'll always at best look at him as a 12 to 10 guy, not an 8 to 10 guy.
And Jahmyr Gibbs could bust.
And also, I want to ask you this too real quick because we've been talking about it. We'll move on, but I want to ask you this. It's a very important question. Are we just starting to see the death of the running back position? I mean, these guys are having to take Zoom calls to band together to figure out how to muster up the to get their teams to muster up a 1-year deal. I don't know. I'm nervous about the long-term evaluations of running backs, and it's starting to look more like just treat them as mercenaries. Grab them for the 1 year, and then don't spend too much on them.
Well, look at the Jonathan Taylor's agent feuding on Twitter with Jim Irsay.
Right. It's crazy because he sees the writing on the wall.
I'm not operating in bad faith. You're operating in bad faith. Well, no, you're operating in bad faith. No, you're operating in bad faith.
Jim Irsay's like
superstar.
Jim Irsay's
I would
let me have
he's
another
not
drink.
necessarily the most valuable player on the team because he's a running back. I love Jonathan Taylor, right? All-American stud. He's caped up for me on the show, you know, he intros the show sometimes.
You're right. He's one of the guys that did it for us for sure.
He's my guy, right? Him and T.O. and we've just got to, you know, Justin Herbert.
Turbo, baby. Right.
Yeah, this is Justin Herbert with the Sonic Truth Dynasty podcast.
He has the voice of a QB1. I want him to be my franchise quarterback.
I did a giant trade where my team was completely screwed, and I think I had Tua at quarterback, and that was it. Maybe it was worse than that. It was bad. I just got in a terrible situation with my wide receivers. I had receivers like, you know, teams where you have receivers like Juju, and you have I had all of these. They talk about quarterback purgatory. I was in wide receiver purgatory, and I had quarterbacks I didn't trust.
Right.
And it was a real death spiral of a dynasty team. You've seen these, right?
Of course.
My running backs were like Josh Jacobs. It was just I looked at it and I'm like, who the hell drafted this team? You ever had teams like that? Where did I draft this team?
Everything went wrong. You're looking at it like, what happened? It's like a blink of an eye. Everything you thought was going to happen didn't happen, and you're just in every single corner with every single position.
I'm looking it up right now. It's my biggest dog in all of our patron leagues, patreon.com/Podfather. You can challenge me in a patron league. And I have all these dog teams, especially recently. I have like 3 dog teams. I don't know. There's 13 teams. Probably have 3 of them that are dogs. Right.
That's pretty good.
2 of them are dogs, but they're on the come up, you know, for sure. There's more, I think.
A couple of dogs that'll be wolves soon, you know, out there.
Yeah, hunting. I think those are fine. Like we're a year off schedule with the rebuild. It was a productive struggle that took a year too long. Right. But yeah, so this team has Derrick Henry. You know, I mean, it's just puke. Damian Harris, I thought I could make a go of it with Damian Harris. Dawson Knox, Jacoby Myers, Juju Smith-Schuster,
just the guys
Harris Campbell. I mean, it's just, but my running backs were like Saquon and Henry. It wasn't Josh Jacobs. I take that back. Apologies to Josh Jacobs and his family.
Shout out to Jacobs.
But they were like aging running backs. Wide receivers that aren't good enough.
Right.
And quarterbacks you can't trust with fringe tight ends.
That's not a place you want to be in.
It was a terrible place. It was basically entire roster purgatory. And so what I ended up doing was just basically saying to a guy, I'll give you Tua and everything else that you would possibly want from my roster.
Yep.
Just give me Herbert.
Blank check.
Mm-hmm. Like I gave him whoever my other quarterback was. I gave him Tua and another quarterback. Might have been Aaron Rodgers. It was just something just gross, right?
Right.
And so I was like, whatever you want. And he kept adding, and I was like, whatever you want. And then I just shipped it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm rebuilding with Herbert. I got nothing else behind Herbert in Superflex. And they took all the quarterbacks from me. So I ended up getting in the rookie draft, I ended up getting Jackson Smith and Jigba, which is nice, but that's
nice.
Only because they stole, like it went Bijan 3 quarterbacks. And I was like, thanks guys. I was like, they're going to give me, no, because you've done this too, right? In Superflex. I'm like, oh, I have the 105. This guarantees me CJ Stroud. And then your league mates in Superflex are like, not so fast.
They go bang, bang, boom. Yep.
It went bang, bang, bang. And I was like, well, that's terrible. I have no QB2. My QB2s are Brissett, Wentz, and Hendon Hooker. Like, I was like, oh, thanks, guys. You gave me Hendon Hooker. That's my solution. That's the long-term solution to my quarterback problem at QB2 is Hendon Hooker. But I'm happy with it. Like, now I've been slowly rebuilding the wide receiver core. I got Drake London now, Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? And then so it's like a slow, methodical rebuild. It's still like 2 years away. But had I not taken the medicine and withstood the pain of these last few years, this year, it's like a 3-year pain window. I mean, I would be nowhere. So when you look back, I've no regrets. You probably say I'd overpaid if you were adding it all up by lifetime value. And still, because I got the best player, a cornerstone of the franchise, now I've got multiple cornerstones. I've got Jackson Smith and Jigba and Justin Herbert, and you just keep building from there. And sometimes you get in the situation where you don't even know who the hell drafted that team. Years go by and you're like, I still can't believe that this is my team.
Just rubbing your eyes.
So embarrassing and so unlike me, but you just have to eat it. And sometimes it's a 3-year process, my friend.
Building a team, building a winner is like building a house. You need that foundation. So even if you have to take one on the chin, that pain window was open for you, but you got your foundation now. You got Justin Herbert, and now the house will start to look the right way. And that's why we don't think that this trade, the package that received from what they traded for Herbert was just not enough. But we do have another trade. This is a 3-for-3 in a 12-team PPR Superflex start 10. FF Doom in the Discord. He's actually his name is Georgetown13 in Discord. FF Doom on Sleeper. Juwan Johnson, Rachaad White, George Pickens, and he's sending away Dalton Schultz, DeAndre Swift, Darnell Mooney. This is a win. This is a win for Mr. Doom, Mr. Georgetown.
He did it.
Yep.
He did it, Doom.
Yep, he did it.
And by the way, Harry Snowman's right. Given my team building situation, Hendon Hooker was a smash pick.
He does love the hooker. He loves hookers.
Yeah, but it was right though. I was very happy to get Hooker. I might have even reached for him given my team build. I knew I couldn't win this year, so why not Hooker? So I think
what do you think the timetable is on Hooker though? Do you think there's a shot that he plays in the NFL within 3 years?
Next year. Why not next year? Dude, remember, okay? The same argument with Jared Goff. That's why, again, our Dynasty rankings and trade analyzer are nails because you're not going to see us out over our skis with guys like Goff and Daniel Jones that a year ago everyone was doubting whether or not they're actual legitimate starters in the league. Right? And you're not going to be able to microwave a stud NFL player by just turning up the dials on the offense. Right? Eventually, these guys get exposed. So Goff is going to be re-exposed as being Jared Goff. He is who we thought he was. Daniel Jones is going to be what we thought he was. Right? And on down the line, just like this year, Justin Herbert's going to remind us that he is who we thought he was all along, and that the Chargers already know it. We're paying him all this money. He's a stud. So the reverse is true with some of these bad quarterbacks. And Doom got the 2 best players in the deal. He got the 2 best players in the deal, and he gave up 2 players that I think are 2 of the most overrated. One is Schultz, right? Schultz is a jag tight end that was he just happened to be the right place in the right time with Gallup coming off the ACL tear. Remember, Noah Brown was getting targets last year. They didn't have another option. And when they threw it to Schultz in the playoffs, all he did was doom them. Right? Doom.
FF doomed him.
Right? I mean, those 2 plays in a row where he refused to get upfield to keep the clock running, and then he refused to get out of bounds. So when you need to keep the clock running, he fails. When you need to get out of bounds, he fails. He's a failure. So Dalton Schultz is an NFL failure, and he's not special in any way. And now that he's on the Texans, you're going to see just how bad he is. And DeAndre Swift was already banished by an NFL team that used an early 2nd-round pick on him. And in camp, he's not even getting the first rep. It's going to Rashad Penny. So Rashad Penny is going to have a day. He's going to have a week or two where he's going to be relevant, and we're going to see some positive game script, and we're going to see Penny probably have a great week 1, and then it's going to be Kenny Gainwell all over again. Right? It's going to skip right over Swift. Something will happen with Penny, and then everyone's like, okay, now it's time. Then it's going to skip right over him, and it's going to go right back to Gainwell like in the playoffs. And everyone's going to be like, why? How? We're going to do this all over again. All the frustration around Nick Sirianni and this clinically operated Eagles franchise where they collect more biometric data than anywhere else, and they pay more attention and more support to their players with nutrition and their the physiology sciences, right, to reduce injury risk and all these things that the Eagles do. And you're going to see these bitter fantasy gamers criticizing Eagles management when there's Swifties not getting the touches that he deserves. And again, if it were me 5 years ago, I'd be a Swiftie too, right? I'd be like the anti-hero, right? But I'm like, no, man, no anti-hero. Like, if the NFL doesn't like him, I don't like him. And I hate to be an old school, kneecap biter, but that's just
Dan
the
Campbell.
facts. It's the facts. You can't get too excited about players that show efficiencies in smaller samples if the NFL hates them. So that's one of the great traps that I would consistently fall into, and it would doom certain dynasty teams because of it. Some awful trades that I made, some terrible draft picks. I have 10 years of lessons learned that I'm sharing. And now I'm this old crotchety guy that I'm not as into DeAndre Swift as I would have been 5 years ago. I'm a different man than I was 5 years ago. I'm not the Swiftie I was. And when Nick Sirianni wears a Kenneth Gainwell t-shirt, I pay attention.
Yeah, he did last year. I'm still a Swiftie. I'm not going to lie. I'm still out there rocking the friendship bracelets. I'm still a Swiftie. But this is still a win for Doom because
it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.
See, come for the trade, stay for the Taylor Swift songs, baby. Let's go. But if you look at our dynasty rankings, I mean, it's a clear winner for Rashad White. It's Pickens over Mooney all day, every day. And then the Schultz-Johnson difference is not as big, I think, as a lot of people think. We got Schultz at 20, Johnson at 25. So, I mean, once you get past what we talked about tight end 18 a couple minutes ago, it's Garbaggio. And last year,
I mean, Doom's going to be pretty excited when Juwan Johnson outscores Dalton Schultz this year.
He was the 6th highest dominator rating amongst qualified tight ends last year. Juwan Johnson, he had a whole bunch of touchdowns. He's got a QB upgrade, 6th in EPA, so he was bringing the production to the field, and now the improved quarterback play. Johnson could be a factor that we're not necessarily thinking about, especially now for those people who think Jimmy Graham's going to be a thing. That will not be a case. But this is a clear win for Doom. So let's move on to the next trade.
Great job,
Mr.
buddy.
Kelley.
Keep it up.
Great. That's why.
By the way, George Pickens at cost, more upside for the dollar than any wide receiver in his tier. Think about who else is in his tier. Burks, no, doesn't have the same upside. Pickens is more upside than Pittman, more upside than Deontay. I would say the only one that has maybe equivalent upside is Jerry Jeudy, but the rest of these players in his dynasty tier. Christian Kirk, Jahan Dotson, McLaurin, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley. No.
You think Pickens has more upside than Cooper?
Oh, yeah. For dynasty, the ability. No, because Cooper
because of his age. Right.
His age,
so you're saying for his value.
The age is just like McLaurin. The age has to be factored in.
Right.
But also, isn't it interesting that Amari Cooper, his splits with Deshaun Watson were anemic, and now he's hurt? I'm getting Amari Cooper on the Raiders vibes.
Oh, don't say that. Please don't say that to me, Matt, because I love Amari Cooper. Big fan of him. He's just been such a prolific producer.
On the Cowboys, Raiders. He was.
I know. He was last year. I mean, last year he was sneakily, top 20 guy. for football, 14 points a
Man.
game.
I'm
in fantasy.
getting bad vibes.
Don't do it. Don't
I
do it.
love the value on Donovan Peoples-Jones very late as a boom bust
do it to
weekly
Matt.
play. Just as a flex guy with upside plus all the best ball juice, and then you have the pending and imminent resurgence of Elijah Moore. I think that's where you want to put your chips, because also, like, it's not going to hurt you, right? Losing Amari Cooper in Dynasty at age 29 isn't going to hurt you. Like, if you traded him, the possible regret factor of you being like, I can't believe I did it. I can't believe I traded Amari Cooper. Like, if you trade Elijah Moore and he breaks out, you're going to be mad.
That is a good point to make, because when they're that young, you're looking at future success as much as current success.
If you trade
when they're 30 years
and he
old,
becomes
you're not
a
looking
top
for the
10
long
receiver
term.
because he's just a total beast, it's in his range of outcomes.
It's in
right.
his,
It's not in Amari Cooper's range of outcomes. He's not going to be a top 10 receiver again. It's not going to happen.
Okay.
He's very fickle. Amari Cooper needs everything to be just right. He's not.
He's
not
a
player.
1,000-yard guy.
I know, but he's just not a player that I would consider anti-fragile. Okay. He is fragile. If things aren't dialed in just right, look at his game logs, man.
He does tend to
his game logs are just you could almost see him pouting on the sidelines in his game logs.
He's got resting pouting face.
No, but you can see him like, I don't want to be here. I don't like them bracketing me this week. I don't like going up against J.R. Alexander this week. Like, when the situation's right for him, he shreds. When his body doesn't feel right, accurate. He doesn't like the coach. He doesn't like the matchup. He doesn't like the system. He doesn't like the scheme. Doesn't like the route that's called. He pouts. And he had 2 years in Las Vegas pouting.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, don't do this, man. All right, let's move on, because you're going to make me sad.
I'm just saying the vibes aren't great. The vibes are not great. And then
you already see him on the side.
Whenever now you're seeing these injuries pop up, it's like, what was he doing all off season? Was he working on his strength and conditioning, or is he just riding it out?
I can't answer that, but it sounds like he was riding out. I mean, why would you have an injury that he already sustained?
Soft tissue at this point in camp is always a bad sign. It shows they're not working on their hydration. They're not working on their strength and conditioning, their stretching. They're just not putting in the work. I mean, what's the probability that Amon-Ra strains a hamstring?
Zero, probably.
It's zero. He's not going to. He's so dialed as a human being, right? I mean, I think that the great question that was asked, by the way, in the Dynasty Roundtable that I wanted to ask you, if you had to pick a receiver that's going to come up and challenge in the Dynasty rankings, Chase and Jefferson, who would it be?
CeeDee Lamb.
We didn't no one said CeeDee Lamb.
For me, it's CeeDee Lamb. I mean, we've seen I love his progression as a wide receiver. He checks all the boxes analytically. He's efficient, and he's tethered to a quarterback that's going to be around, a guy that we like, a consistent, consummate pro. 1,400 receiving yards. I think like 12 touchdowns is in his range of outcome, as well as 1,200 receiving yards. I love CeeDee Lamb to ascend, but after that, my next pick would be Mr. the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, I think it's for me, Matt. I actually, if it were for my life and I had to bet, I would be Amon-Ra over CeeDee Lamb.
Okay, so this trade's a smash for the side receiving Amon-Ra, and I agree though.
Yeah, I mean this trade is crazy. I wanted to ask you this because do you know who the guy I picked though? So Theo, I think, selected Amon-Ra smartly. And I looked at CeeDee Lamb and I said, no. I actually picked the guy that blotted out the sun and outproduced by a significant margin both Olave and Garrett Wilson when they were teammates.
JSN.
Yep.
JSN
puts up a big year. I'm telling you, you have a DK Metcalf injury, DK Metcalf torn ACL. You've got a Tyler Lockett hamstring or hip injury. Something I can see, maybe Tyler Lockett hip injury. That was probably that's my guess for whatever injury. All these guys, by the way, they all suffer injuries. Unless you're Travis Kelce, you have an injury every year.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's whether they play through it or not, whatever. Kelsey's just, talk about what's the anti Tua in terms of spatial awareness. It's Kelley, right? He knows where everyone is at all times. He never takes hits. His, clean, Witten was the same way, right? Back in the day.
Forever.
So he's one of those, it's like Floyd Mayweather, just doesn't get hit, right? He's the Mayweather of football players. So
that's a good one. I like that a lot. I like that.
Jackson
Travis
Smith-Njigba is the one guy you close your eyes and you can imagine him. I can imagine 180 targets from Amon-Ra, and then also having like a sort of a positive, lucky touchdown total, high touchdown rate, and then him vaulting into the tier. You can see that very clearly and easily, given that that's such an up-tempo offense, and Jameson Williams is a bust. And then the other one would be an injury to Metcalf or Lockett, totally unlocking JSN early, right? Or something wild happening, like because Seattle positions themselves as ostensibly the meritocracy, unlike any other, right? That they actually just full-blown start him over Lockett or something crazy like that.
But I don't think it's that crazy. He's so good.
I know, but then he gets like 12 targets in week 1.
And we go,
it has a huge game.
Yeah.
And let's say he goes out and has 130 yards on 12 targets in week 1 and actually runs more routes than Lockett. And everyone's like, well, yeah, that's the guy from Ohio State 2021. That's the guy we remember.
That's the guy with 330 receiving yards in a bowl game.
In the span of a week, Matty, he vaults into the Jamar. I mean, you're going to have dynasty leaguers losing their minds, and you're going to see him vault into that tier instantly.
This is such a win for the left side, but you know what? Go ahead and use that 24 first. Go try to get JSN, because now you could get yourself Amon-Ra and JSN. You could get the two guys that are the heir apparent to that top dog status. So I think that's the move. But Matty, are you ready for
what a great trade, man? Is this so? In these trades, the left side is typically the Discord members. And by the way,
PlayerProfiler.com. So this is Gippy F1.
Okay, Gippy so F1 the left side is typically those that are in our Discord. So PlayerProfiler.com/chat. PlayerProfiler.com/chat. That's how to get in the Discord.
Yes,
and then we will talk about your trades here. And then, no surprise, members of our audience are killing these trades. Next trade.
And I actually looked at the wrong guy. It's Teets. Sweet name, by the way, Teets. So here we go. Last trade of the night, Matt. And I saved the best for last for you, because it involves Quentin Johnston, and it also involves Jay Football Wine, baby.
Is this Jason Allwine?
This is a Jason Allwine trade. He made it in a 12-team PPR Superflex 1.5 TEP start 10. He shipped away QJ and received Tyquan Thornton, Pat Freiermuth in a 2024 second round pick.
Before we get into that, Mansion lifestyle hack. Non-alcoholic beer, Athletic Brewing, hazy IPA. You can't tell it's not a real beer. It's got 0.5% alcohol. Okay. So I'm sharp, man. I'm drinking a beer, having a nice evening.
Staying cognizant. I like it.
Program, cognizant, having a great time with my friend Matty. And I don't have to worry about driving home or anything. It's a nice little hack there, Athletic Brewing. And it's a Connecticut company. They just got fundraising. They just raised like $50 million. Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it Connecticut? I'm from Mass, so I mean, I'm only a stone's throw away from going to pick some up myself.
I think they have like 60% now of the non-alcoholic brewing market. They're dominating.
Oh shit.
Athletic
Good
Brewing.
For them. Athletic. What a
They're
name,
doing great
too. What a name, Athletic Brewing.
Smart.
I don't know.
Smart.
Sometimes
I'm athletic
up here, though. You are athletic. I can vouch for that. We would have won the 2-on-2 touch football game at the Kansas City Draft House if your boy didn't lose steam and underthrow a couple footballs.
Your conditioning was an issue. If you had the same freaking lasers that you were heaving just like 20 minutes earlier,
Yeah,
I was
we
toasting
dominate.
these guys, and you were, and
Yeah.
I was just like, I'd look
I
up
wa
and be like, oh man, I'm gonna have to put the brakes on.
Yeah, and I was
Uh,
wearing jeans and cowboy boots, so it was just not a good look for your boy.
in 1.5 tight end premium, I would straight up just take Freiermuth.
Over QJ.
Yeah, of
So this is a
course.
slam dunk for our
Realize
boy
how
Jay.
hard it is to get a tight end. Like Theo talks about it all the time. FFPC is 1.5 tight end premium, and we love the FFPC. Promo code Underworld, $25 off your first team. Freiermuth is a super valuable asset in 1.5 premium. Like he's one of the few tight ends that's young, proven, and there's no doubt about whether he's good at football.
That's
Like
correct.
how many tight ends are there? There's actually doubts about Kyle Pitts. I mean, the upside is crazy. I'd much rather have Freiermuth, right? Same with Kincaid. The upside's amazing, but in terms of proven, you got Freiermuth, Goddard, you got Kittle, Hawkinson, Kelsey, Andrews. That's 6 dudes. That's only half your league can even have one of the 6 most proven tight ends. And then of those guys, a handful of them are not young, right? Half of them are not
No, they're
young.
not.
Kittle's
Kelsey's
not young.
33.
Kelsey's not young. Andrew's not young. So now of that list I just mentioned, now we've narrowed it down to Hawkinson, Goddard, and Freiermuth are, sub 29 years old. No, Andrews. Actually, Andrews is younger than Goddard. Did you know that?
I would not have guessed that. I would not. Well, Goddard did come from one of those schools that you come out at like 22 years old, right? He come out of South Dakota State or something like that.
Yeah, I take a lot of pride in knowing a lot of these things just off the dome. Like I know Quentin Johnston has a 92nd percentile burst score and a 14th percentile agility score. Like I don't have it pulled up. I just know that, right?
That's comparable to Josh Doxson.
It's funny because it's true.
We ain't lying, folks.
You have to understand, age is such a big thing in Dynasty. The fact that I had no idea that Goddard is actually older than Andrews is like I'm drenched in shame right now. I can't believe I didn't know that.
And you're cognizant. You're having athletic brewing right now.
So actually, only 2 of these guys are even young. It's Hawkinson and Freiermuth. So Freiermuth is gold. And all you have to give up is a surefire bust receiver that nobody wants. Like no one actually wants him. I asked this question. It's like, this guy was 1 pick away from JSN in the draft. It was like Jackson Smith and Jigba, then Quentin Johnston, then Jordan Addison, back to back, right? No one is drafting him over JSN. Very few people draft him ahead of Jordan Addison, who was picked after him. And it's become a coin flip of whether you go Zay Jones or Zay Jones. Zay Jones.
Zay Jones might be an optimistic comp for Quentin Johnston.
Zay Jones is a pretty good comp, actually.
Slow. It might take 7 years to fire.
No, Zay Jones had more burst than straight line speed. He was more of a bursty player coming out, and he excelled in slants, very short depth of target. So he's basically like QJ without the deep balls. Like QJ does, Quentin Johnston, say what you want. He does run the skinny post. He does run the 9 routes, and he has secured deep passes. Now, granted, at his pro day, he dropped 3 consecutive perfectly thrown balls on deep passes, and the entire scouting group groaned. Right. This was like one of those things where they couldn't believe like 3. And then was it Duggan?
Max Duggan. Yep.
Yeah. Max Duggan's like, hands on his helmet. Like he's there to help this guy get drafted.
Right.
And like he's like throwing these like perfect passes. He's like, oh man, I got it. It feels good, right? To throw a pass perfectly. Like, that you have an unbelievable spiral you can throw. And then for the guy to clank 3 of them, I mean, against air,
no defenders, no shoulder pads.
He's just clanking against air. is so embarrassing, right? And then it's just it oozes Laquan Treadwell. It oozes a lot of these things where he's ducking events. They had to hound him to do the agility drills. He didn't want to do it. He was all like shy and sheepish, like, I don't really want to do it. Like, I don't think it's in my best interest. I don't think I'm gonna. My people said that it's not in my best interest, and they're like, hey man, you really need to do these drills. Like, we need to evaluate your quickness and your agility.
It's important for our process.
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna send a really bad signal if you're ducking this event. And so he's like, okay. 14th percentile. Like, he knew.
Yeah,
he knew, right? He knew. And so it's just so bad. It's so bad. It's such a like every step of the way. It was like, so I asked Alex. I was like, Alex, so you were there? He's like, yeah, man. That was one of the worst wide receiver pro days I've ever seen.
Yep.
And he's like, and I'm like, well, so were the Chargers there? He's like, I don't know if the Chargers were there. Sometimes the analytics department makes these picks. And it's like, you know what? I would have loved, this is me with Brashad Perriman, right?
All those years ago.
If I was the analytics guy that the GM hired 5 years ago, I would have been pounding the table for a Brashad, for the Ravens to grab Brashad Perriman.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have made fun of the scouts. It would have been just like Moneyball. And I would have, like, demeaned them, and I would talk down to them and condescended. And they're like, bro, you weren't there. He was dropping passes against air. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care if your spreadsheet says that he has, the highest tackles broken per route run or whatever the hell. It doesn't matter if he's great at stiff arming Big 12 cornerbacks. That's not going to fucking matter, dork. When he actually gets to the NFL, and I'm like, but you got to understand the broken tackles per route run, right?
Now we put these on because we're scouts now.
So I'm like, yeah,
not analytics, we're scouts now.
So where's? Oh my god, where am I?
Where's your scouting glasses, Matt? Let's go. We're not analytics guys.
Oh my god, no, I got them. You ready?
We're kneecap biting, fight. Till you die, coaches now.
This is my spreadsheet. It's he's got somebody broken tackles per route run. I mean, and then the guy's like, and
I would have been the guy. Did you see his girlfriend? No confidence.
Yeah, the scout's like, yeah.
Dropped another one.
So so you say it's what a yards created per route run? Yeah. I don't think you were at the pro day, young man. This guy can't play. He can't play a lick. You want to put him out there with Justin Herbert? Justin Herbert's not going to want to play. Justin Herbert's going to have him shipped off the field pretty quickly as soon as he drops the second pass deep. We'll end up playing more Jalen Guyton. We draft this guy, and then I'm like, well, but I swear my average target depth on passes that are not slants or bubble screens was very high for Quentin Johnston. I don't understand. So anyway.
I'm so glad that Dallas Scout made his second appearance here in the network on Trade Gods.
He's trying to do something. So bottom line is, I would have drafted Quentin Johnston 7 years ago. I would have been pounding the table, and the GM that brought in the slick analytics kid would have been totally hosed. And in the NFL, unlike baseball and basketball, what these scouts have to contribute is actually more valuable than most sports. Mm-hmm. And it's taken me 10 years to appreciate that. And now talking to Cody, talking to Alex, going to the Senior Bowl, you can't skip the pro day.
Right.
And if you can't squeeze the football against air, the idea you're going to squeeze it against Jair Alexander is just wrong. Think about who's in that division.
Patrick Surtain.
Right? Patrick Surtain. What do you think is going to happen?
Trent McDuffie.
I mean, it's not happening, man. He's not going to go to Mile High Stadium and dominate down the field like he did against the Big 12. I'm watching these Big 12 highlights. It's like, oh, look what he did against Julius Brents. Yeah, Julius Brents fell down. There's a one long pass where Brents fell down. Okay, and then he's stiff arming a safety on a slant up the middle and just runs away for a touchdown after breaking one tackle. And it's like, this isn't real life, man. This was like a video game. This was like a movie.
On easy.
Yeah, this was like, this was like this was a Truman Show situation, right? Where they were just like, cue the broken tackle, right? Or trip the defender, and so this is what happened. I mean, it was like, we talked about this with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson was that's why his headshot on Player Profiler is Jim Carrey,
right,
from that movie. And Quentin Johnston is that guy at the wide receiver position where, if the moon and the stars align and enough fucking cornerbacks fall down, okay, yes, you can have the best yards created per route run in college football one year.
At TCU.
But there's just so many guys that have had great metrics. You know who had great metrics was N'Keal Harry.
Fantastic metrics.
His metrics across the board, dominator rating, but also some of those more granular advanced metrics on a per target basis, a per route run basis, were excellent at Arizona State. And at the NFL level, he just couldn't separate.
No.
Right. That's not necessarily Quentin Johnston's problem. I think that Quentin Johnston has his problems may even be more like systemic and problematic in that he doesn't have the route inventory, period. Right, to even have anything more than like bubble screen and very basic, like the most sort of junior high Z receiver route tree available. And we know those guys are Jalen Guyton. So it's frustrating to be on Twitter and to be on Reddit and to see people that are just don't have the perspective. But it's also
10 years from now,
like arguing against my younger self.
Right. You've learned. You're showing maturity. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. But what you're saying is you've learned over the years. You've been doing this. You've been the head of a fantasy football colossus for almost 10 years, Matthew. Not bad for a man. How old are you now? 30, 36?
Hey, easy. So by the way, if we swap out, so I'm clearly emotionally invested in Quentin Johnston's demise.
Well, you've tied me to that tether too, so I'm right there with you.
So it's a problem. So this trade is a problem. So a lot of these trades we've said, hey, we can tweak some of the details to make it more interesting. If it's Zay Flowers, then it's more interesting. Because Zay Flowers is doing that thing that Amon-Ra's doing.
He is. Yes, he is.
He's
doing that thing.
And he's catching 1,000 balls in the jugs machine. And he's the first one there and he's the last one to leave. And he has the requisite athleticism where as long as you have like a trait, right? Like Julian Edelman, upper percentile agility score. And he couldn't be denied over time. Right? Amon-Ra, upper percentile burst score. Other metrics, not great, but that's what he has. Zay Flowers, he's fast. Right? Maybe the other metrics aren't as but the burst score also 65th percentile. Right? So he's got speed and burst. So you put those together, and by the way, they couldn't bully him into doing the agility score. They couldn't. He didn't do it.
No,
he said,
didn't.
"Fuck you. I'm not doing it."
He's a beast.
Yeah, he said, "I'm not doing it. I'm not doing the agility." And they bullied Quentin Johnston into it.
He said, "Okay, I'll do it."
So he's faster than Quentin Johnston. He's almost as explosive, and just wired. And he really is wired. His best comparable is Jahan Dotson, but in terms of play style and in terms of wiring, he is the reincarnation of Steve Smith.
Love
that. So that is a guy where if I'm going to give up a Pat Fry, I'm not giving up Pat Fry. I'm still rejecting it,
Mhm.
because that's not a traditional lopsided quantity for quality trade. It's just quality for quality.
Yeah.
Right. But I get
see what you're saying.
Tyquan Thornton, who runs a 4.2, who could actually break out this year. If there's
Mhm.
one thing I always bet on at wide receiver, it's the elite speed. 4.4, I don't care about. Like you could D.D. Westbrook. But if you run like a 4.25, if you're Calvin Austin, if you're Tyquan Thornton, I want to take shots on those guys because they can actually turn game-breaking speed into fantasy relevance, and they can be wide receiver 3s that really help your dynasty team, especially all these deeper dynasty teams. Then you're getting a 2024 second, could be a deep draft class, and we've seen a lot of second-round picks smash. So, and that could be an early second-round pick, which would be a super smash, especially in super flex. So you have a quarterback-rich draft in 2024. That's going to push a bunch of position players into the second round. So you need to look at who the quarterbacks are coming out in superflex leagues and in the QB rich classes where you have like this past year, 3 quarterbacks in the top 5, then you have to aggressively acquire 2024 picks, acquire the second rounders in those draft classes with a lot of quarterbacks, because the second round is going to be talent laden. So that's why here I still prefer the Pat Freiermuth. And I think predominantly because of what we talked about earlier, the value of a tight end like Freiermuth in tight end premium, number one, but then also that 2024 second is gold.